Going live, going live. A live English lesson. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this live English lesson. We'll get started in just a moment. Just checking things out, making sure everything's working. We'll start in 30 seconds or so. This lesson about body positions. So let me finish checking out the audio, checking out the stream health, checking out the video. Everything looks a-okay. So far, so good. Hopefully it stays that way. I'm sure it will. We've had some good success lately. So we'll start in about 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this English lesson about body positions. As human beings, we do a lot more than just sit and stand. There's a lot of different ways we position our body as we go through the day, depending on what we're doing. In this English lesson, I'll look at about 30 different body positions that we use during the day and at night. Some are very, very common, and some are only used in special circumstances. But I thought it would be worthwhile because these are all very common words and phrases that we use in normal English conversation. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about body positions. I think it's going to be a fun lesson. Before we get started, I do want to say hi to everyone. Hi, of course, to Dave, who's here to moderate the chat. Thanks for being here, Dave. Hi to Noriko, Vitor, Mode Eggs, Freddie Wolf, Brent from Speak English with This Guy is here today. Brent has a snow day today. That's exciting for him. That means he doesn't have to go to work because the weather's bad. Always nice. Hi to Yaroslav and Fritz and you and Kalufi and Van. I know Wanda's here as well. Linda, Lolly, lots of regulars. Denny Ka is here as well. And we'll talk about body positions. So human beings are interesting people. We have the ability to do a lot of things with our bodies, and we have found various ways to position our body as we go through the day. So we'll have a look at a few of them today. If you do have a question during the lesson, please use the form that is in the description below. Click the link and fill out the form with your question, and I'll try to answer it at certain points during the lesson. And lastly, before we get started, if you I forget what I was going to say, last thing before we get started, and then it slipped my mind. So let me not worry about that. Oh yeah, last thing before we get started, please use the chat as a friendly place to have English conversations with each other. Use the chat to chat with each other, practice your English reading and writing skills while I'm doing the lesson. If at some point during the lesson I get a little bit boring, just enjoy the chat for a bit until I get more exciting again. Let me do one last check here. Everything sounds like it's working great, so we will get the lesson started. Let's do that. Crouch. So we'll start with this one. When you crouch, you kind of get down in a position like this man, and you might think this looks like squat because it kind of does look like squat. These are the same. When you crouch down, you make yourself a lot shorter by bending your legs. If you've ever played video games, especially the video games that we call first-person shooters, sometimes in the video game you will crouch because you want to hide from the enemy. So whenever you crouch, you get down, just like this man is doing, so that you are not as tall. You bend your legs and you crouch. And again, you might be wondering, what's the difference between crouch and squat? Well, not a lot. It is the same position. So this person is squatting. This is a squat. We can squat as well. It is the same position as crouching, but we also use this when we talk about exercise. Sometimes people go to the gym and they will do squats at the gym. They will get weights, and then while they're holding the weights, they will go into this position, and then they will stand up again to work out their leg muscles. So the first two body positions, crouch and squat, very much the same. Here's a very familiar one, at least it should be familiar to you. Probably the two basic body positions are sit and stand. Sit is what you do when you are on a chair or on a couch. Sometimes it's nice to sit and relax. This is a very common body position in my part of the world. You might actually sit on the ground. That might be more common. Or you might sit on a cushion, or you might sit in a chair, sit on a chair, or sit on a couch. All of those are valid ways to describe sitting. This guy, by the way, is sitting cross-legged, but I think in American English they say cross-legged. But anyways, he has one leg over the other. I'll talk about cross-legged a bit more with another body position. So stand is what you do when you are not sitting. Before you walk and when you're done walking, you are usually in a standing position. This is something you can describe a person by saying this person is standing. You can tell someone to stand by just saying stand or stand up. But probably the two most common positions, sit and stand. The rest of the positions I talk about will be less common to you, but still quite common in the English language. On all fours or on your hands and knees. This is a common position when you lose a contact lens. If you're someone who wears contact lenses and one falls out, you'll often go on all fours, or you'll go on your hands and knees to look for that contact lens. I think this person is actually doing an exercise, but when I saw this picture, I like to imagine that he's on all fours because he lost a contact lens and he's trying to find it. Or maybe he's on his hands and knees looking for something that he dropped, something very, very small. By the way, when you're my age, if you go down on all fours, it's hard to get back up again. And sometimes this makes my knees hurt. So I try not to drop things on the floor very often. But definitely, if you drop something on the floor and you need to get down close to the floor to see it, you might go down on all fours, or you might go down on your hands and knees. By the way, you don't need the word down in there. You can just say go on all fours or go on your hands and knees, but it sounds better to me. It describes the action better. To kneel. So when you kneel, you put both knees on the ground or just one knee on the ground. It doesn't have to be both. People kneel for a variety of reasons. I know that when we take a family photo, sometimes people will kneel in the front row and sit in the second row on a chair and stand in the back row. So let me describe that again. If you have a lot of people in one place and you need to take a picture of 20 or 30 people, sometimes people in the front row will kneel. They'll go down on their knees. They will kneel. The people in the second row will sit on chairs, and the people in the third row will stand. Sometimes, depending on your religion as well, you may pray in this position. You might kneel to pray if you are a religious person and that's one of your practices. You might have a prayer mat and you might kneel on that mat in order to pray. So kneeling when you go down on both knees or just one knee. You can kneel on one knee as well. You're further down than crouching, definitely. And this is an interesting one. This person is kneeling, but in the world of sports, we have a description of this position. When we are in this position, we say that you can take a knee. This person is taking a knee. I can tell people on a team, hey, take a knee, I'm going to talk. Sometimes if people on a sports team are protesting, if they are concerned that there is racism in their sport or they have a concern, they might take a knee during the national anthem. And that would mean they go in this position instead of standing. I'm not going to get into the controversy surrounding that, but certainly if you see someone in this position, you could say this person is kneeling, or you can say this person is taking a knee. So going down on one knee. To stoop down. Sometimes you have to bend over a little bit. When you stoop down or when you stoop, by the way, this word is less common. I don't use this word very often. So when you stoop down, it means your head and shoulders are forward a little bit. If you go through a door that's not very tall, you sometimes have to stoop down to walk through the door. You have to kind of lean your head and your shoulders forward in order to step down. So we had this when I was younger. We lived in an older house, and if you were tall, you had to stoop down to get through the door. So that is the body position or action you would need to take in order to get into the house. This is something students sometimes do. They will slouch. Let me say that again so you understand the pronunciation. They will slouch. When you slouch in a chair, you do not sit upright. You slide down in the chair like this person is doing. You don't use the chair properly. When students in a class aren't interested, sometimes they will slouch, and eventually sometimes they'll fall asleep, but that's rare. But yes, when you slouch, you sit in a chair, and then when you slide down so that you're in this position, we would say that you are slouching. Often teachers will say, don't slouch, or teachers will say, sit up straight, stop slouching, because slouching shows disinterest. It shows that you don't really care about the class. Sometimes our kids will do this as well at the supper table. They will slouch or they will tip their chair. That's not really a body position, but I should have had a slide for that. They will tip their chair back on two legs. So it's similar to slouching. It's considered a bad use of a chair. But hey, let's look at some comments. Let me have a sip of tea here. By the way, just before the lesson started, I made a cup of tea and it was too hot. So I was going to put an ice cube in it and the ice cube slipped, but it still landed in the tea, but then it spilled tea all over the counter. So the counter has like some sticky tea because there's honey in it. But hey, let's get to the lesson. Let's see what the questions are. From Ruslan, we have, hi, dear teacher Bob. How are you today, sir? I am good. You heard that Brent has a snow day. I actually don't have to work today. Students are writing exams over the next few days, and I do not give an exam today, so I'm home. So Brent and I both have the day off. How are you today, sir? What is your favorite sleep position, and which one you've never been able to fall asleep in? If I sleep on my back, I snore, like, so I generally sleep on my side if I can. If I sleep on my stomach, I usually get a kink in my neck because I have to turn my head. So generally, I sleep on my side. Let's see here. Yaroslav says, morning, the wisest teacher Bob. It is the first time I am run out of questions, but very useful lesson though. Have a great weekend. Well, it's no problem. Thanks for the kind words. I hope you have a good weekend too. You don't always have to have a question. It's good to just have a nice comment. So Ario says, hola, Mr. Bob. How are you? What is body position? So I think now you've seen a bit of the lesson, Ario. We can sit, we can stand, we can lie, we can sit with our legs crossed, we can take a knee, we can kneel. There are all different positions we put our body in as human beings. So we would call those body positions. It was the best title I could come up with. So maybe not a great title, but hopefully as you watch the lesson, it makes more sense. Andre says, hello, Mr. Bob. Some body positions need flexibility and strength. Have you had pain in your back for bad positions? Yes. I'll get to this, but when I have to bend over to work on something, I do get a sore back. Our kitchen counter is a bit lower than normal. So when I bend over or when I lean forward, I'll talk about both of those body positions in a bit. I sometimes get a sore back for sure. I do. Let me see here. I'm just looking in the chat. I just saw Dave answering Vuda saying that was a good question. I'll probably get to it later if I can't find it when I scroll back. Let me see here. I'm going to skip the next question because it's not about body positions. Oh, wait, it is. Let's see here. Let me just check something for a sec. I gotta look something up for a moment because I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm the English teacher. Yes, so the next question, let me get it on the screen. It says from Curtis, hey Bob, the word kneel, is the K silent? Yes, kneel. And genuflect, is it the same as kneel? So I have to read the definition because it's not a common word for me to use. It's to lower one's body briefly by bending one knee to the ground, typically when worshiping or a sign of respect. Okay, so there you go. So it sounds the same, but it's not a word that Bob the Canadian uses very often. So let me see here. Brent says, my daughter's high school also has exams this week. We call them finals. Ah, yes. We call them exams, examinations. It's a very formal term. And then millions of American parents say, stop slouching every day. Yes, for sure. So Winter Wright, hi Bob, usually in the classroom, what are the body positions of the students if they feel the class is boring or they enjoy the class? Have a nice day. So we would say if a student enjoys the class, they usually sit up straight. That would be a description. They might even lean forward a little bit if they like it. If they don't like the class, they'll either slouch, although that doesn't mean they don't like the class. A lot of teenagers just slouch all the time. Or I don't have this as a slide. They might sit with their head down. Students might sit with their head down on the desk, which years ago meant they were disinterested or possibly sleeping. But currently, when students have their head down on their desk, it might mean that they're looking at their phone. They might have their head down in their phone on their lap or something like that. So those would be the positions. Vodka says, what about down on bended knee, like in Boys to Men song? So when you're down on bended knee, it is kneeling, but I think it usually refers to sometimes when someone proposes to someone else, when they ask them to marry them, they will go down on bended knee, or they'll go down on one knee to propose, like, will you marry me? And if a Boys to Men song, if it's about romance, that might be what they are referring to. Let's see, from Mayuri, is it better to use bend over instead of stoop down, as stoop down is also mean to behave badly? Yeah, I think, like, I have to duck. That's the word we would use. If I have to go through a door and it's shorter than I am, I would duck to go through the door. I should have had that instead of stoop down. You need to duck. So when someone throws something at you, you might need to duck. That means put your head down. And if you go through a short doorway, you might have to duck to get through. That would be a much better description of it. Daniela, what's called the sitting position when I do yoga and have my legs crossed? I hope you know what I mean. Yes, so we'll have to ask Brent about this. I say to sit cross-legged. Brent, I think, might say cross-legged. I'm not sure. It depends on, I'm a little more, Canadian English is a little more British. And I do have a slide for that coming up. It's also sometimes called, there's a modified version of it, I think, called the lotus position. I think that's what it's called. I should look that up before I say it out loud. I don't know a lot about yoga, so let me look that up. Yes, okay. Let's get another question up on the screen here. So Henry from Taiwan, hi Teacher Bob, since you do a live stream English classes regularly in front of the desktop, do you use anything ergonomic to protect your body position? Thank you. I don't, but I try to sit with my shoulders back for a while there because I use my mouse with this hand. I always had this shoulder further forward than this shoulder. So as I get older, I try to make sure I sit straight and that I don't move this shoulder forward. Otherwise, I was starting to get a pain in my back from using a mouse. I got a sore back from using a mouse, believe it or not. Let's see here. And then Brett says, another word, by the way, for cross-legged is to say crisscross applesauce. Yeah, that's a very much for little kids. We say that for sure. Let me see here. Let me get to the next question. Thanks, Henry, for that one. Let's see here. Not on topic, but Huzaifa says, hey, Mr. Bob, I'm a new student looking to come to Canada in a few years. When is the next lesson and what time? A little fix there. Every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m., although it might be 7:30 a.m. in a few weeks. I have a different schedule coming up, so I'll talk about that when the time gets closer. Let's see here. Let's get back to the lesson. Let's do that. Let me have a sip of tea from my slightly sticky mug with some honey on it, but that does that ever taste good? Let's see here. Yeah, Bode says, sore back from using a mouse. So old, yes. I also got a sore back from having my wallet in my back pocket all the time, so I don't keep my wallet back there. But back to Henry's question. I do sit a lot, so I need to take care of myself. I need to sit properly. I need to make sure I don't slouch. So the opposite of slouching is to sit straight up. This gentleman, he is sitting straight up, but he could also be sitting straight up with his back against his chair. So the back of the chair, he could put his, I'm trying to move the right hand here. He could sit further back and we would still say he is sitting straight up. But when you sit straight up, your back is straight. You're not slouching or leaning forward. It's just a good way to sit. And then we have, of course, bend over. Sometimes you drop something. Sometimes you need to pick something up. And in order to do that, you need to bend over. When you bend over, you lean the top part of your body, your upper body, forward. By the way, I should explain that for a sec. Everything above your belt, we call the upper body. Everything below the belt is called the lower body. So when you have, you might hear this with a sports player. He has an upper body injury or he has a lower body injury. So upper body, everything above your belt or above your waist, and lower body before. When you bend over, you bend your upper body over and then you pick something up or you put something down. Or maybe, not sure what this lady's doing. Maybe she dropped her groceries and she needs to bend over in order to pick them up again. This is when you can hurt your back, when you bend over or if you do it improperly. So to sit cross-legged, I'm going to keep saying legged. I think this is the British pronunciation. When you sit cross-legged, you sit like this. You sit on the ground and you cross your legs. You can sit cross-legged on a couch, I guess. But usually, for me, I think as a teacher, when I see people sitting cross-legged, it's usually at lunch or maybe during a class, the teacher says, just sit in a circle and read the current book or read a story. So students will sit cross-legged in order to do that. Again, I think the American pronunciation might be cross-legged, but I say legged, cross-legged. By the way, I asked all my colleagues, all the colleagues I could find yesterday, do you say cross-legged or cross-legged? And most of them said cross-legged. And then some started to doubt themselves. So, but we're going to go with cross-legged. To curl up in a ball. So this is a position that's related to emotion. When someone's feeling a lot of negative emotions, if someone's feeling sad or feeling depressed, they might lay in bed during the day or at night and they might curl up in a ball. When someone gets injured, they might curl up in a ball. If someone is in pain, they might curl up in a ball. So you can see this person is putting their body into the smallest form that we can, and it looks a little bit like a ball. Many years ago, I had a kidney stone. A kidney stone is a sharp pain in your kidney, and so I was in pain, and so I was curled up in a ball. So that's a very common description. Someone who is very sad, someone who is very upset, someone who is in pain might curl up in a ball. They might try to be more comfortable by doing that. To lean over. So lean is interesting because you can lean against a wall, but when you lean over, it generally means like this. So you can lean over to talk to someone. If Jen and I were sitting in a movie theater, I can lean over and ask her a question. I can lean over and ask one of my kids a question if they're sitting beside me. So that's moving the upper body this way. In this picture, the man and woman are both leaning over towards each other. Instead of lean, so this person, you can lean against a wall, you can lean forward, you can lean backwards, you can lean from side to side, but it simply means that you are either moving your upper body or you are against something, okay? Students will often lean against their lockers when they are standing in the hallway at school. Sometimes I will lean on the counter in the kitchen while I'm talking to Jen. So to lean is simply to put your body in a not, you're still standing, but you're touching something. There, that's a good way to describe lean, I think. On tiptoes. So sometimes you can't see because the people in front of you are really tall and you want to try to be taller. In order to do that, you might go on your tiptoes. You might go on tiptoes. So that's when you have your foot flat on the ground and you just go up on your toes. This person is standing on their tiptoes. Little kids often stand on their tiptoes when they're trying to see something. They will go up on their tiptoes in order to see it. It's kind of an interesting word, isn't it? Let's look up the official meaning of tiptoes. So it says, so to walk directly and carefully on one's toes, raised to keep one's weight up and to be taller. Interestingly enough, when you tiptoe, it also means to walk quietly. Okay, so when you stand on your tiptoes, it looks like this. When you walk on your tiptoes, it usually means you're trying to walk in a way where you're really, really quiet. I don't like it when tall people stand in front of me if I go somewhere. So not enjoyable. I am of average height. So I'm not short, but I'm not tall. I think I'm 5'10.5". In Canada, we measure in feet and inches when we talk about height. I know we're a weird country. So to lie. So notice this is the verb lie. When you lie somewhere, it means you are like this. You are prone on the ground. You are flat on the ground. I shouldn't use prone because that usually means face down. In English though, and I'm really bad at this, I often use the verb lay, which is incorrect, but I still use it. I will say I'm going to lay down. I should technically say lie. I can lay my phone on my desk. And when I go in this body position, I will use the verb lie. So when you lie, you are not standing or sitting. And sometimes you're sleeping. Sometimes you're just doing this. You're just looking at the clouds because it's fun to lie in the grass and look at the clouds. When you are prone, it generally means that you are lying with your face down, or you're basically the front of your body against the ground or a mattress. When you are in the fetal position, you are usually curled up in a ball on your side. We call this the fetal position because it's like how babies are in the mother's womb. I guess that's probably where it comes from. So this person is in the fetal position. Some people sleep in the fetal position, but sometimes people are in the fetal position again because they might be in pain. They might be sad or depressed. They might just be in the fetal position because of how they are feeling. Sometimes we lie face down or we lie on our stomach. So when you lie on, it should say lie on your stomach. Sorry, that's a mistake. We should have that in there. So you can lie face down or you can lie on your stomach. This is how some people sleep. I will sleep like this a little bit sometimes. If I'm having trouble sleeping and if I'm tossing and turning, when you toss and turn, it means you can't fall asleep on your back. You can't fall asleep on your side. So you try different positions. Sometimes I will lie on my stomach. But we sometimes say lie face down or lie on your stomach. Sorry for the mistake there. Lie on your stomach. Sometimes you lie on your back and sometimes you lie on your side. Notice this is a little different than the fetal position. This person is definitely curled up in a ball, whereas this person is a little more relaxed, right? So you can lie on your side. I usually lie on my side when I sleep, but sometimes I have my arm under my pillow and under my head, and then it will fall asleep. So not always the best way to sleep, because it's not fun when you're, do you know what I mean when I say my arm falls asleep? You know, when your arm gets all tingly or your leg gets all tingly because of how you're sitting, we say that it has fallen asleep. So sometimes my arm will fall asleep and then it'll be all like, and feel funny. Let's do some questions. I was just noticing Brett's comment. He said, Bob is half an inch taller than me. Maybe not anymore. You know, they say as you get older, you get a bit shorter. So last time I was at the doctor, I was 5'10.5". Maybe I'm not anymore. I'll have to go and get officially measured again. Hey, let's do members only chat. Just let me get that set up for a minute here. For those of you that don't know, let me talk about a couple of things. I'm Bob the Canadian. I teach English here on YouTube. It is one of my two jobs. My second job is I go to a high school and I teach French and business and computers every day. Except for today, I have the day off. But if you want to learn English on YouTube, my channel is one of the places where you can come and do that. This is a live lesson. During live lessons, those who are members who have clicked the join button can ask questions directly in the chat. You'll notice too, they also have their names in green and they get a little crown depending on how long they've been members. So that's my spiel. That's the word we would use. I'm talking about what I do. Right now, we're going to do some more questions. And while I'm doing questions, I will also answer questions from members in the chat. So let's get to the next question. I'm going to skip questions that don't relate to the topic. Okay, I like to stay on topic. This one's not on topic, but I'll answer it anyways. Why do you say we'll be starting instead of we'll start? What is the difference? Sometimes we add words in English just for fun. We have a certain turn of phrase. We like to say things in ways that sound fun. So I can say, we'll start in 5 minutes, or we'll be starting in 5 minutes. They mean the same thing. No difference there. Okay, from the chat, we have Brent saying we're about the same age, so we're probably shrinking at the same rate. Probably. Yeah, Brent and I are getting shorter together as we get older. Zeev, hi, the greatest teacher Bob. What's the weather over there? So this isn't how you normally describe weather, but I would describe it as muddy. It's warm and muddy for January here. I do not like mud. Mud is when water mixes with dirt. It's just muddy outside. It's not very nice. It's above 0 Celsius. So Freddie Wolf says, Bob, what do you call the poirier position when someone leans upside down against a wall? So I'm going to talk about handstand and headstand later. That might be one of them. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up and see a picture. Mode Egg says, so when you and Brent talk shop, you talk about your heights. Very professional. Now we talk about our students. We talk about, no, that's not it. Yeah, we talk about everything. So let's see here. Lolly Lolly says hi to Zeev. Noriko says hi. Is the thumbnail that you show us lie could describe sprawl? Which word is better to describe this position? Thanks. Yeah, you could say sprawl, but sprawl usually means, you know, you're just laying all with your arms and legs in different directions. I should have found a slide for a sprawl. I think we have a word too. You can lie akimbo, all akimbo. Not sure. You should look that one up though. Harry 300, what is the position in which you stand using your hands instead of your feet? That's called a handstand, and I have a slide for that coming up soon. Mode says, I like that logic, Brent. Harry 300 says, how about the position in which you stand and you lift one of your feet? Yeah, there's probably a name for that, but it's not an official body position. There aren't official body positions, but it's not a recognizable name. It's probably a yoga position. So Yaroslav says, what is the position of the body when you're on the space? I don't know exactly, Yaroslav, what you mean. Oh, in the space. Body when you're in space or in the space? You're floating. If you are floating above the ground, we might say you're levitating. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, Yaroslav. Hopefully. Zeev says, what's up, lolly lolly? How are you? And what is the time with you? Cool question. The goal is to be higher than large. Yes, the goal is to be, and I got used to being average height a long time ago. Although once I was, where was I? Once I was the tallest person on a bus, and that was interesting because all of a sudden I was tall. So Mode says, could you please mention other meanings of squat, like squat building and squat in place, like illegally stay there? Oh, yes. So first of all, you can use squat to describe something. If a building is like really wide and only 3 stories tall, you could say it's short and squat. So you can use it that way to describe it. But you can also use squat and the word squatters to talk about people who live in a building. Let's say there's an empty building. People can squat there, which means they live there illegally, and we call them squatters. And actually in Canada, I think we even have squatters' rights. If you squat somewhere for long enough, you have rights, like legal rights. So that would be another one. But yes, you can describe a person. Like if a person is, let's say a man is 5 feet tall, but he's really wide and muscular. You could say he's short and squat. You could say that as well. And then again, a squat is a type of exercise. I think I talked about that earlier. Let me think. Is there another word for, or another meaning of squat? Yeah, you could use it to describe someone who hasn't done any work. Like I told the students to read the book, and then I went to talk to the principal, and when I came back, they hadn't done squat. So that's a very informal use of the word squat. Thanks for asking for other meanings. Yeah, the workers didn't do squat. They were there all day. They just drank coffee. They didn't do squat. Let's see here. Linda, hello, Bob. Is there any difference between somersault and backflip or flip? Somersault always goes forward. Backflip goes backwards. So that would be the difference. But you can do a somersault backwards, but it's called a backward somersault. So when you go, if you say somersault, it means forward. If you say backwards somersault, it means to go backwards. Let's see here. I lost my spot. Vitor, put your hands up high, reach for the sky. Is it common to use that phrase for a body position? Students will raise their hand. I think I have a slide for that. Police officers will say hands up, and they'll ask you to put both hands up. That's all I know. And then maybe at a concert, the person singing might say, let's see, everybody hands up, and wave or something like that. Yaroslav, yes, I meant the position without gravity in space. Yes, we would say you are floating. So if you are in space, you are floating. If you are on Earth and you have magical powers, so you're off the ground, we would say you're levitating or floating in the air. So, but in space, we would say floating. People float in space, just like you float in water. Isa says, when you said I sleep on my side, I thought that is your favorite side, you know, left or right. Yes, I sleep on my right side. Yes, I normally sleep on my right side. Let's see here. Harry says, can you do the bridge position, Bob? I don't think so. I think that's hard. Is that back with my back to the ground in an arch? I'm not sure I can do that position. Lolly says, thanks. All okay with me. How about you, Zeev? Mode. So you can be a squatter in a squat building and do squats. Yes, definitely. And you can just sit there all day doing squat. That's Noriko Mode. That's a good one. Thanks for mentioning another meaning of it. Zeev, hi Noriko. How's it going? Mode says, yeah, squat and diddly squat as well. Darn this word. Yes, it shows up everywhere. And then Mode says, did you have a dress down day yesterday, Mr. Bob? Clench your hand and clap your hands. Can you make a gesture of both? So when you clench, it's like this, right? And then clasp. We don't use the word clasp a lot to clasp your hand. We would say like you clench your fists. Like he was so angry, he was clenching his fist for sure. And then, yeah, I made my video during the school day and I was wearing this yesterday actually. So it was nice. Lolly says, Bob, can you walk on your hands? I used to be able to, but I can't anymore. That was fun. When I was younger, I could do things like that. It was fun and crazy times when I was younger. Let me get to a few more questions from the forum, and then we will get back to the lesson. Let's see here. Freddie from France. Bob, do you ask your students to stand up when you enter the classroom, or is it an outdated habit? Thanks and enjoy your day. No, I don't walk in and yell, debut, debut. No, I don't. No, that is definitely, in my school at least, outdated. I think there are some more formal schools where that might still happen, but I would say it's not common in Canada anymore for students to stand. It's common for them to slouch when the teacher comes in. Let's see. Few BB says, hey Bob, those expressions for body positions are complicated. What's your take on that? Any tips for better retention? Have a lovely morning. Yes, whenever you learn vocabulary like this, the best way to remember it is to put yourself in every one of these positions. So on your computer screen, go through the video, find crouch and then crouch, squat, squat, on all fours. Like put the image on the screen with the words, do the position and say it. It's a good way to remember it. Let's see here. Jamal says, hey Bob, I haven't any question, but I want to say that I appreciate a lot your methodology and your manner of teaching. It proves you are a great pedagogue. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. Okay, let me see here. Scrolling back, Naomi T is here. Hi, Naomi. Mode says, when you put your hands together with your fingers intertwined, what do you call that? So this is, we just say folding your hands. So if we say to someone, just fold your hands, sometimes we ask little kids to fold their hands so they don't do stuff with their hands. So we would just say, fold your hands. Let's see here. Ball up your fist. Yes. We would probably say make a fist would be the most common, but ball up your fist or clench your fist. Scrolling through. Brett says, my students are required to genuflect when I walk into the room. He's joking, by the way. That is not a common thing. Let's see. Phrasal verbs show up everywhere. Harry 300. Hate them. Yes, they're everywhere. I think I'm going to turn off members only chat, and I'm going to finish off this lesson. So give me a moment here to do that. Let me get to that part of it. I think we're good, and let's get back to the lesson. Thank you to all of you who are members. Thank you for supporting my work and for asking great questions in the chat. Let's learn a bit more about body positions. Bow. So sometimes you bow. In some countries, you bow out of respect, or it's a greeting. In some places, you bow at the end of a play. If I was an actor in a play, when the play is over, I might come out and bow. So it is a position where you lean forward slightly. You might have your hands at your sides, but you will come out and bow. Generally, bowing in North America is after a performance of some kind. Someone might play the piano for a large audience, and when they're done, they might stand up and bow. As the audience is applauding, they might bow. But yes, in some places, it is culturally significant to bow to people. It's something you do out of respect or greeting. There's another pronunciation, but it means something else, and that's bow. I can wear a bow in my hair, although men don't usually wear bows in their hair. But this is a bow. I shouldn't confuse you. And then on the feminine side, there's something called a curtsy. Generally, we see more bows than curtsies now. Curtsies are becoming less common. If I go and see a play, and if there are men and women in the play, at the end of the play, they will all come out and bow. Sometimes the women will curtsy. If you go and see a dance recital, or if you go watch a dance, you're probably more likely to see women curtsy or girls curtsy at the end. But I think bowing has become much more common in North America. But this is called a curtsy, where you bend slightly at the knees, and if you're wearing a dress or skirt, you kind of hold it a little bit. Bob the Canadian is not an expert on how to curtsy, but I have seen it. And so we talk about raise your hand. This is a little more of an action, but it's also a body position. The action is raising your hand. The body position is to sit there with your hand up, waiting for the teacher to call on you. When you have a class and you say to the students, does anyone know the answer? They will raise their hand to indicate that they know the answer. That is a common way for people in North American classrooms to indicate that they have an answer for the teacher, and probably around the world as well. Sometimes you stand with your hands on your hips. This can be comfortable. This can be to show defiance. This can show that you're serious about something. Sometimes if you watch sports, the coach will stand on the sidelines with their hands on their hips. So your hands are then actually right on your hips. I sometimes stand this way because it's just comfortable, but this person just looks happy to stand with their hands on their hips. But it's certainly another body position, which has no real meaning. But yeah, sometimes I notice it a lot with sports. Coaches often stand with their hands on their hips on the sidelines. Headstand. So we have headstand and handstand. I'm sure you can figure out the difference. A headstand is when you invert your body. So you are now the opposite of normal. Your head is towards the ground and your feet are up in the air. That's how we would describe it. Your head is on the ground, your feet are up in the air, and you balance on your head. So this is a headstand. You will see people do headstands sometimes if you go and watch gymnastics, or you might just see people doing it for fun at the beach. If you are physically fit and able to, you might do a headstand. And if you're really strong, you might do a handstand. I don't recommend doing handstands this close to the edge. I'm pretty sure this picture is photoshopped because no one in their right mind would do a handstand that close to the edge of the water. But definitely this is a headstand and this is a handstand. I used to be able to do both. I probably could still do a headstand, but I'd have to do it against the wall. And I think if I tried to do a handstand, that wouldn't work. And I used to be able to walk on my hands when I was younger. Maybe that should be my New Year's resolution, to get in good enough shape that I can do a headstand and a handstand again. Although when you do a headstand, all the blood rushes to your head and it makes you feel funny. So sometimes you'll hear this phrase in a police show. You'll hear them say, up against the car, spread eagle. That means that your legs are apart and your arms are apart. So you are spreading out your legs and spreading out your arms. Police officers often have people spread eagle so they can pat them down to look for weapons or other things they shouldn't have. But if you do watch Canadian or American TV or British TV, when they arrest someone, they might say, get him up against the car, spread eagle. Let's search him for whatever they need to search for. And then we have the word straddle. Straddle is when your legs are on both sides of something. So this person is sitting backwards on a chair, and we would say he is straddling the chair. When you ride a horse, you straddle the horse. When you ride a bike, you technically straddle the bike. We don't use that word to talk about cycling, but technically anytime your legs are on both sides of something, you are straddling it. You can straddle a fence. When you climb a fence, and if you sit on the top with one leg on one side and one on the other, we would say that you are straddling the fence. And then there's what's called hang. When you hang, you simply find a bar and you put your hands on it and you hang. I do this. I don't do a lot of chin-ups or pull-ups, but I do hang from a bar a little bit every day just to kind of stretch out this part of my body. It's supposed to be good to hang every once in a while. It's supposed to be good for your back and good for your arms and shoulders for sure. And then recline. I do this every day. Recline is when you sit and your upper body leans back a bit and then your feet are usually up. So this person is in a chair that's called a recliner, and you can recline in a chair like that. So you're not sitting straight up. You're not slouching. You're just tilted back a little bit. You're leaning back a little bit for comfort. So this is probably the nicest way to sit when you read a book. It's nice to recline in a chair at the end of the day to relax a little bit. Always fun. Okay, let me finish off some questions. Let's see if I can figure out how many questions are left. There are no questions left. What? There's no questions left. Can you believe that? That's rare. Let me just make sure that I have answered all the questions from my members. So there's a little chat going on here. Maybe a simple bow should be your outro for these live lessons. That's what Mode says. I should bow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I'm done. Are you guys applauding? I don't think you guys are applauding at the end. When you meet a queen or king, what's the name of the gesture when you greet them? You would bow, definitely. Yes, you would. I think that would be the gesture. You would bow. Let's see here. Yaroslav, your student should be praying. Okay, let me check if there's a question. There's no question. So let's just wrap this up. No sense going longer than we need to go. Let me have a sip of tea. And let me just mention that there are probably a few body positions I didn't mention. It got a little challenging to separate actions from positions. So a position, like when you sit, you're not moving. When you do a headstand, you're not moving. An action would be running or walking or jumping or skipping. So I could do a lesson on that at some point, but I wanted to try and stay as close as I could to positions you put your body in. So I might have missed a few, but that's okay. Anyways, I'm going to say bye to all of you. I hope you have a good Friday. Bye to Naomi, Harry300, Yaroslav, Mode Eggs, Noriko, Brent from Speak English with This Guy, Dave, thanks again for moderating. Bye to Ario, Alina, Vitor. I think I said bye to Noriko already, but I'll say bye again. Bye to Lolly Lolly, Ricardo Ramos, Arena. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat and say bye to a few people who say bye to me. Bye to Eugene. Eugene, I really hope we get winter soon. I'm not sure what it's like up there in Etobicoke, but it's just a muddy mess here right now. So bye to Eugene, Ralph, Freddie Wolf, Wanda, Lolly Lolly, Vitor, Ricardo, Linda, Noriko, Amina, Ario, Hisu, I'm B, Naomi T, Yulia, Dave again. Dave won't be here next week. We might have to do it without a moderator, or I might have to train someone new. We'll see. Bye to CS Team, Max, Jamal, Maxim, Jamal, Mito, Alina, Isa, Linda, Noriko, Fafa, Captain Hamars. Bye to everybody. Bye to Ivan. I'm going to go now. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, don't forget, this will come out in a shorter version in a couple days. Listen to that or watch that, one of the two, just to kind of reinforce what you've learned. And definitely do this. When the shorter version of the video comes out, play it, and for every slide, hit pause, and then put your body in that position while you're saying that word, like I'm going to crouch, and then crouch. I'm going to squat, and then squat. So just play the video and pause it on every slide and do that position. It will actually help you remember it. So anyways, bye everybody. Have a great day. It was fun. Thank you. Thank you very much. Couldn't hardly fit. I had to stoop down while I was bowing so I would fit on the screen, but there you go. I should record that and make that my outro, my bow. By the way, I think you do move your arms when you bow. I'm not a professional at it. I've never been an actor, but I think that's how you do it. We'll see. Anyways, bye everyone. Now I have to watch myself bow. There we go.